Welcome back, everyone. Today, I want to talk about one of the top things on my wish list for Space Marine 2, and that is to see, eventually at some point, some Chaos-themed cosmetics added to the PVE side of the game. So currently, if you want to look like your favorite Heretic chapter, or at least one of the 6 that's offered in the game, it's all locked behind the PvP side of the game. And currently, there is no way other than a few emblems to represent your favorite group of traders. So, before I plead my case as to why I should have Chaos-themed cosmetics, I want to go over the 3 reasons that I found online as to why we currently don't see any on the PvE side of the game. So, the first reason, and for me personally, I don't feel that there's a whole lot of validity to this just based off of the other 2 reasons. But I have heard some people speculate that this is something that Saber does in fact have planned for the future of the game. However, again, like I said, to me, this is the least likely reason. Now, the other reason that I have heard is that Saber is worried that this would break some of the canon for the game, since we are playing as a group of loyalist Space Marines, specifically the Ultramarines, and they don't want to kind of break any of the lore by allowing you to have Chaos chapters that work alongside loyalist chapters. Now, the third reason that I keep seeing a lot is people once again speculate that Games Workshop has very strict control over what Saber and Focus can and cannot do with their IP. Now, regardless of what the true reason is, maybe it is one of those 3 reasons, or maybe it's something entirely different, I still feel that it would be a good thing for this game to eventually add in some cosmetics that are Chaos themed for players to use on the PvE side. So, my reasons are in no particular order, and I'm probably going to start off with the simplest one first, and that is, it would just be fun. So, myself, I do have a favorite group of traders, that of course being, as you can see right here, the Night Lords, and I do think it would be cool to eventually be able to have a more appropriate themed Night Lord build just for any of my classes. And that being said, it may be, a very simple reason, but I think giving players the freedom to express themselves by showing off what their favorite chapters are, it's a good way for people within the game to engage with one another. There have been a couple times where, hey, some of us, we get a little bit of the tism when we're playing this game, and I'm just as guilty as that, or I'm just as guilty as anybody else, but some of my favorite memories from this game have been, anytime I would throw on one of my various kind of Chaos-themed characters. On occasion, I'd get somebody who would take one look at my pauldron, see that emblem, and we would just start kind of riffing back and forth. And I've absolutely loved it. And I think by being able to further expand upon those cosmetic options, I think it's just something that would open up a lot of fun for other players and also create some unique options, especially for people that maybe just want to create their own, personal Space Marine chapter. Now, in terms of the lore, because I do think this is probably where a lot of the reasoning for not having Chaos cosmetics does lean a little bit more towards. For me, I do kind of find it odd that if breaking the immersion from the lore or the canon, however you want to look at it, I do feel that it's kind of weird that they wouldn't give us the actual cosmetics, but still give us emblems and color schemes to essentially still build those same chapters. Again, my current character that you see on screen, I have all the Night Lord colors, I've got the emblems. As far as I'm concerned, what I'm playing as is a Night Lord Space Marine. Now, I get it, lore-wise, that probably wouldn't make sense to see a Night Lord working alongside Ultramarines. However, again, it's just really cool, and I also just really enjoy Night Lords. But again, I think that, if they were really worried about breaking canon continuity or the lore, then they probably shouldn't have given us these options in the first place if they had no intentions of allowing us to further express ourselves through potential cosmetic updates later on in the future. Now, something else that I do want to throw out, and I will just apologize very, very quickly here. I am rather new to this franchise. I feel like I've tried to learn a good bit about it, but there's a lot. So I might get some of this wrong. But one of the things that I do also want to bring up is there were members of all the different traitor legions that did hold allegiance even after the Horus Heresy to the Imperium. Just offhand, Gabriel Loken from the Sons of Horus, or the Luna Wolves, as I'm sure that's probably what he would want to be remembered as. You know, he was part of Horus's legion, and he did choose to remain loyal despite Horus falling to chaos. And he's not the only Luna Wolf that we did see do that. There were several others as well. I know also in the books it does talk about that, you know, a lot of the Chaos Legions did have to call a lot of their current Astartes that they felt would continue to remain loyal to the Imperium. Plus, we also see it in other books as well. I believe the one book is called The Value of Fear, where we actually see a loyalist Night Lord working alongside the Raven Guard. I know there was also, I want to say, a loyal Wordbearer's Dreadnought. Now, again, I know timeline-wise and lore-wise, the Horus Heresy does happen at, 10,000 plus years before the events of Space Marine 2, and the odds of a Space Marine surviving that long outside the warp probably doesn't make a lot of sense. But even looking at the lore, again, there have been members of each of the 9 traitor legions that did remain loyal to the Imperium. So I would actually be willing to meet Saber War Games Workshop in the middle if maybe they didn't want to give us directly Chaos-themed cosmetics, even if they gave us cosmetics that harken back to a time when these chapters were still loyal to the Imperium. I would still be cool with that, just allow me to have that classic looking bat-winged helm for the Night Lords, or maybe give me a few pieces of armor. Well, I guess the Death Guard would have had to fall to Chaos for me to get some pieces of armor with them kind of spewing pox out of them. But regardless, I still think that would be something that would be very interesting to see, is, maybe give us some loyal era cosmetics from each of these legions. Now, the final thing that I want to throw out is, so in the community update, Saber did announce that they were going to be doing another game type where it was actually going to be chaos against chaos. What I think would be interesting is if they took that same idea and transferred it over to PVE, which again, this would open up the realm where we're not breaking any of the canon or lore, where we could have traitor legions going against various traitor legions. Even if they just wanted to keep it as, hey, you can pick whatever chaos group you want, you're part of whatever warband, and you're going against the Thousand Sons, I'd be perfectly cool with that. Because that is something where, again, in the lore we do see, I'll refer to the Night Lord's Omnibus with this one. You see Talos and First Claw, they very quickly betray, not just Abaddon, but even some of the Red Corsairs and that, just so that they themselves can survive. So it's a very well-established fact that the traitor legions will stab each other in the back any chance that they get, if it means that their particular warband might have a better chance of survival. The other thing that I think would be fair as well, to give us another reason to have maybe some chaos-themed operations, would be, hey, if there's a Tyranid invasion going on, I would imagine at some point, hey, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So even if it didn't have us directly working alongside the Imperium, I do think having maybe some operations where Chaos is, again, trying to deal with, the current Tyranid invasion, I do think that would be a fun way to, again, allow us to have those options to create a Chaos-themed Space Marine and not require a whole lot out of Saber, or, again, if it's Games Workshop that's worried about Saber, you know, messing something up with their IP. I think that would just be a very simple way to make it work. But again, in my opinion, there's really no bad reason as to why somebody should want Chaos cosmetics to this game. Again, I love a lot of the lore behind a lot of the Traitor Legions. I do think that they are extremely cool. You know, please don't report me to the Inquisition. I promise I'm still more of a loyalist, but hey, some of these traitors, they drive a hard sell. They definitely got some interesting lore, and I think it would just be really cool to be able to, again, just kind of create some of those different legions in the game. But let me know your guys' thoughts and your opinions down in the comments. Again, I don't think there's a bad reason to include any of this into the game, but if there's maybe some other ways that you think they could incorporate them that maybe I didn't think of, feel free to let me know. But as always, thank you for watching, and we will catch you next time.